we're talking about
You feel he does it?
we're talking about the Chumashim. So the Torah anthology, Rabbi Ari Kaplan is one of the best ones, and he's very good for those who want to have clarity in a lot of the cloudiness in their learning. I read like maybe 10 of his books, and he clarified things that are extremely difficult when you learn them in Hebrew and Aramaic and Aramaic. He translated it super, super simple and clean. You got it, you understood it, and I'm sure there's other ways to learn what he translated, but he did such a good job that you walk away and you kind of say, oh, okay, I got it, I understand. Because there's a lot of stuff that's very confusing in the religion. There's a lot of stuff that
All the things that you don't understand. That's why you say it's confusing.
Also a lot of arguments. Yesterday we were talking about Korach, today we're talking about Korach. Well, we don't get it. We don't understand it. And we ended a little bit of the discussion yesterday with Korach that, okay, if he's such a bad guy, and he's NG, his kids are perfect examples of the complete opposite. He has a descendant, Shemuel, Shakul ke Moshe v'Aharon, yeah.
You said he's also going to be the...
And he's going to be the Kohen Gadol in the third Beit HaMikdash. Sadiq katamay frach Rashi Tevot Korach, like the Arizal says, from Maharchu. This stuff, meaning if you told me he was over, he's never coming back, I'd tell you, okay, we got a real good lesson to learn. But you flipped it. And the Mishnah in Avot told us an interesting thing in Pirkei Avot yesterday. Told us that the mahloket wasn't like they said mahloket l'shem shamayim Hillel and Shammai. She'ena l'shem shamayim is Korach v'Adato. It should have said Korach v'Moshe. Because but Moshe didn't have an argument. Moshe said, "Listen, Korach, you want to be the leader? I'll step down. You can have it.
Yeah, I have to go talk to Hashem.
I'll go do it. Whatever he wants, you could do. No problem with me. I have no issue. No issue with me. The issue was Korach v'Adato. They had two different. They were looking for two different goals, and that got him in. How do I know that was the main issue? The Masechet Avot, the Pirkei Avot, the Mishnah was giving us a real good secret. How do I know that was really the issue? I don't know that it wasn't Korach and Moshe that was the one that got him in. The Korach Moshe was definitely part of it.
To what everyone calls the argument or the different...
Yeah, so the argument was very simple.
No, that was it. What we learned last night, that's all it is. Nothing.
Oh, there's more. There's always more. But Korach's main argument is as follows. He said, you skipped over me. You gave it to a younger sibling in the family. I should have gone in that, and I want more. And we didn't question a lot of the things, but thus far, things have been taking a turn for the worse. There's been a big U-turn. You promised us all the land. Then you told us they're not getting the land. Not only are we not getting the land, you told us that everyone between 20 and 60 is going to die. You took away the ability of all of the children of Bnei Israel all the Bechorim to be part of the Mishkan and working in the temple. You took everything away. You promised us a lot of things in Egypt. You got us out, but you just took everything away. And the people are hurt. People are hearing Korach's argument, and they're hurt. And they're saying, let Korach do more. And then we ended at that. What he tells.
Why did he want to do more? Because he felt he can handle more, or because he saw Moshe had more, and other people had more.
It seems that he had more kedusha and he wanted to grow. That was his main thing.
But you also told me last night.
So what got him in was the mahloket, and the point I'm trying to get through is how do I know that was it? It was the mahloket with him and his Eda. Is that if there wasn't a mahloket, him and his Eda, it would have been him and Moshe, and he might have won the argument. I'll prove it to you. It says that during the time of Eliyahu and Navi Zachul Letov, there was a king called Achav, and Achav was a wicked king. But every battle he had, he won. As a side note, and I always make a big asterisk, David HaMelech didn't win all of his battles. Achav did.
So, well, hold on.
Did you just get what I just told you? David, he didn't win all the battles. Achav did. Now, what the Gemara tells us?
You're going to tell me winning a battle was the zechut of the king?
It was the zechut of the achdut, no mahloket. And Achav had major achdut amongst Klal Israel during his time. They did worship they worshipped Avodah Zarah,
They were together.
but they kept together. They stayed.
No strife.
They stayed and they avoided the strife. And when the Torah could have hid that story. I always tell people, the Tanakh, the Mefarshim, the Gemariyot, had a chance. The Hachamim had a chance to hide things from us, and I'm sure they did. But there were certain things that they wanted us to know. They told us these stories. Why would they tell us that? Why would the Navi go out of its way? There were millions of prophecies. Out of the 24 books in the Tanakh, why are they telling us this? That it's so ikad. You know what they're trying to tell you? Mahloket is a killer. Mahloket is the killer. To the point that we want to get you that if you're the holiest man, you have all the Kedusha, you have Ruach HaKodesh, you can see your grandchildren like Shemuel, Shakul Ke Moshe Aaron. You're going to have a grandchild, a great-grandchild, that's going to be equal to Moshe and Aaron. That's wild. And he was right. I don't know anyone around here today that's having prophecies of who their grandchildren are going to be. You don't know where he's going to be tomorrow morning. And Korach knew that. Korach was Nosei Aaron. He was holding the Aaron. He was on a level of Kedusha that we don't understand. But the Mahloket got him in. And the Torah was telling us that even if you have all those things, Mahloket can really swallow it up and destroy it.
It was his inner Mahloket, him and his people.
Doesn't matter where. Mahloket is Mahloket. To the point that Achav's story.
It looked like it was towards Moshe because he was all over the place, and it's like when he had the.
I listen. There's also, we didn't go into the Datan and Aviram part of the story with Moshe because that's a whole nother facet that needs a separate time. You know, just as a point as to why. Bnei Israel is found in Egypt.
Is what?
They're in Egypt.
Yeah.
Shevet Ephraim gets prophecy that we're going to leave. There's going to be a Geulah. But they jump the gun. They leave Egypt early. They get hit with a battle. They completely lose the battle and are completely 100% annihilated. And they're not buried. All their goofs, their bones are left on the side of the road of the battlefield. And that's part of the reason why when we left Egypt we didn't go the easier route, because
We had to bypass that.
we had to bypass that. I'm getting to a point. I'm going to get to a point. I'm going to blow your mind. But I'm going to tell you now. They made a huge miscount. That was a major part of the tribe, and you could see it in the count of the numbers of Ephraim. We were looking yesterday in the Chumash, in the other Chumash here, the other art scroll one. You could see it in the back. The new one, the new Hebrew one has the new. Then Moshe Rabbeinu comes around and says, "I'm here, Hakot Pakati." He says the two magic words. Nobody ever heard those words before. They don't know if it's true or not. Moshe Rabbeinu, you haven't been here in 40 years. Where have you been? We haven't seen you since you killed that Egyptian. We knew you grew up in the thing. We know your dad. We know Amram. Everyone knows Aharon. Ohev Shalom. Everyone loves Aharon. He's the rabbi that everyone loves. Where you been? No, I'm back. I'm here to save you. I had the prophecy. Bakut Bakati. We don't know if it's you. He shows them one or two signs. They go to Serach Bat Asher. They go to the oldest lady in the land, the old Teta, the old Safta, the old, Bubi. They go to her. Is this guy legitimate? So what did he say? He said, Pakot Pakati. Did he give you the sign? He gave us a sign. That's what he said. He does the signs, the Makot. Within a year, they're out of Egypt. They get to the sea, Yam Suf. The sea don't split just yet. Nachshon ben Aminadav jumps in. It splits. They go through.
Nachshon ben Aminadav was also with Korach.
And we mentioned yesterday, Nachshon ben Aminadav is the one that Korach convinced. He's one of the ones that got burnt. One of the 12 Nesi'eh Ha'edah that the Rabbeinu Bahya ben Asher hinted to us that he got convinced and fell in. Nachshon ben Aminadav jumps in. The ocean, Yam Suf sea splits. Egyptians get killed. 2 people stay behind. Two people, here Moshe Rabbeinu, saw all the makot. We're not ready. We're not ready. We're not ready to leave. I'm not ready to leave. I'm standing right here. Yeah, but 600,000 men and up to 3 million people plus the Erev Rav are all leaving. No, we're going to stay right here. We don't want to leave with Moshe. I'm staying right here. What? Yeah. Makat Choshech? Yeah, they didn't die. They were not part of the 80% that died during Makat Choshech. They stayed alive.
Oh, so there were people that stayed alive.
During Makat Choshech, 80%.
People, and they still didn't come out?
There were 80% that died during Makat Choshech according to one opinion, Chamushim Alu. There's a few opinions. What is Chamushim Alu? Chamushim Alu means a fifth, 20%, 80%. Chamushim also means that they were well laden with money and gifts and gold and silver that they took from the Egyptians. A third opinion, Chamushim Alu, with weapons. Chamushim also means clay neshek, weapons. They went with weapons. And so they all leave. The Tan and Aviram stay behind. They're survivors of Makat Choshech. They don't die. Paro goes to run after the Jews. The Tan and Aviram are still there. After Paro gets killed, they decide we're going to leave Egypt. They start walking the same path. They come to Yam Suf. The Yam Suf also splits for them.
Second time?
A second time. They walk right through. They catch up with the camp in the desert. We're here, and they start arguing with Moshe. Did you just hear what I just told you? There were two splittings of the sea.
Not only that, they had the zechut that it split for them.
And you
Who are you to say that I'm staying behind, and then it's going to split for you?
And just to get, that's why
and then they came and they argued with us.
I introduced the part of Shevet Ephraim leaving early and that they were all completely annihilated, to tell you that there were others that did different things and different routes that didn't make it. We don't understand the Tana Aviram story in its depth. We see, of course, we're looking at the Mefarshim, but when I say we don't understand is that up until this point, we were under the impression it was a simple, if the Tana Aviram were alive today, they would be the biggest tzaddikim maybe of the generation. You would not be able to tell the difference. And lo and behold, the Tana Aviram also, they're joining Korach, they're part of his whole Edah. The whole issue is Korach and his Adato, besides the Korach and Moshe, our argument. And it's the Mahloket set him in. To the point that when Mahloket is avoided with Achav, they're of the Avodah Zarah, and they're wicked, and this guy Achav is arguing with Eliyahu and Navi Zachur Latov. They both show up at the Shiv'ah for the builder of Yericho.
The Tan Aviram were Aaron's children.
No.
No, he wasn't?
No, they're from Shevet Reuven, the Tan Aviram. You're talking about Nadav and Avihu, Elazar and Itamar. Those are the four. And all the Kohanim today come from Elazar and Itamar. Rabbi Eliyahu HaKohen Itamari is a rabbi from Izmir, Baal Shevet Musar. He used to put at the end of his name Rabbi Eliyahu HaKohen Itamari because he traced his lineage back to Itamar, because Nadav and Avihu perished on the day of the inauguration of the Mishkan. So all Kohanim that we have today come from two. There were four G2 families. Two perished without children. Two were left. That means all Kohanim have to come from two, because Aharon didn't have any more children. At least we don't have that documented. I should say thus far. Maybe he did. I don't know. But we don't know of any other children or anything. Maybe there was a Midrash. I don't know. So, but we just know of the two. So all Kohanim come from those two families. Now there is also the Kohanim from Pinchas, because Pinchas gets elevated and crowned. So there's a third family that comes in of the Pinchas, which wasn't before. That was part of the special gift of Pinchas, which
so anybody after that point became
of his lineage that were born after. And when it came to Aharon, I don't know if he had more children, if they would have also had the Kehuna in that same way. we'd have to look at the Mefarshim on that because there's a lot of.
Didn't they have to earn it some way?
There were certain things. It's like Pinchas got gifted, that him and his descendants had that. So it should also show you the depth of the mahloket of how difficult arguments and like we were talking yesterday, the majority of life today, most of our machlokot are on honor and on money, because we generally don't have any of the struggles that our ancestors or our grandparents or great parents had. We have none of them.
Today about what you said, how Hashem gave us everything, and He's definitely gonna call on us and ask us what we do. He gave us everything too.
I think
our mind isn't on this, so, isn't on really doing much with that. So therefore, He's going to ask the question, what did you do with all the money I gave you to make yourself better? What position did you put yourself in to learn?
You're even going to the extent of the money. I'm going even to the extent of the time and the excess and the overindulgence of worldly matters and everything. And we have everything. God gave us everything. A person could be distracted from his birth until his death and just follow doing mitzvot, gliding, mitzvat anashim milumada. It's what that means is that a person is doing the mitzvot, but he's not feeling anything. He doesn't have the sense. He doesn't have the connection with the Borei Olam. He's just doing. He's just coasting. When the holidays come in, he doesn't feel anything. Doesn't have any feeling in his heart. And there's a special component, but that's the ikar. They said, what is tefillah? Avodah shebalev. Tefillah is not avodah shebapeh or avodah shebamoach. It's an emotional. That's why to the extent that the Chachamim tell you, you can pray in the language that you understand. Yeah, sure. Meaning, they gave you a huge pass. They said, listen, we know that Anshe Knesset HaGedolah gave you the keys to the maftechot of the she'arim to open up the gates of prayer. But hey, if you don't understand this and you're 20, 30, 40, 50 years old and you haven't gone anywhere with this prayer book, put it away for a year, open up the English, and for 1 year, pray in English. And pray in 10 different sidurim that have different English versions. You'll walk away a different man. The first time I did that, it opened up my mind to the extent that I was not really praying up until this point. I was just saying the words and I felt proud that I knew how to read every word perfectly, more than I actually understood the depth of what was going on.
So you have to do it more than just once in a while? You had to do it consistently?
Oh, sure. I had to do it. And I even did it as practice, just reading and learning and then going into the Amidah. And I looked at different ones. There were different types. There was almost 10 different English versions of, translations that I looked into to kind of figure out. You have to understand the depth. Is that, I'm reading now a book called Shema Beni by Rabbi Lubin in Miami. He's one of the rabbis in Torah's Chaim, Torah's Emes. It's called Shema Beni. It's a Hebrew book. It's like 700 pages. The whole book is about Musar. It's a whole Musar book. And they follow the derech of the Chafetz Chaim, Rabbi Yisrael Meir HaKohen Miradin, which is a very practical method. One of my rabbis, Rabbi Gladstein, is one of those Talmidim. And it's very, very practical. And one of the practicalities of it is that you don't show the religion at no point. There's no... where they're not into the whole babas, not into the whole movement. It's a very practical part, very, very straightforward part. And this book, he has fantastic insights that he's putting in Musar. And so Rabbi Lubin in this book, Shema Beni, he has a part that he talks about the Hafez Chaim, how he prayed. And you kind of think like, well, what is he going to write about the Hafez Chaim praying? So first thing he told me was something interesting, that one of the students stood next to the Hafez Chaim in order to listen to his Amidah, to hear him. And that's how we found out how this worked. I mean, this wasn't written by the Hafez Chaim. It was written by someone who went.
He didn't even publicize it. He didn't publicize it. Had to grab it out of him.
Had to grab it out of him. And I say that because sometimes you have to grab things out of the rabbis in order to have a tremendous musar for years. And he says that when he heard the Chafetz Chaim praying, it was a conversation. He was having a talk with the Borei Olam. Let's just talk. Amonai, Sefatai Tifta, Chofni Akita, Baruch. It was just a whole conversation, word by word. And who said that? Rav Musafi brought this down. The Chamis Ra'atiyeh. Also, later in his life, at his older age, he started to pray in a tone that was a little louder, so that I guess maybe to hear, so other people were able to hear if you were near him. And
sometimes maybe when you get older, you can't hear yourself, so therefore you have to talk.
Well, and hopefully we're going to all have good hearing. But so they said on him that also when he prayed word for word. What I mean, and I'll tell you what I mean on that, because I tried doing it and it changed the way I prayed. You know, sometimes we say Sim Shalom Tova Bracha Chaim Hein V'Chen Tzedakah Rachamim. We're just saying the whole thing. So what they said when Chametz Atiyah would pray, he would say Sim Shalom Tova Bracha. Every word was a gem. So he didn't package words.
He didn't make it on a run-on sentence.
There were no run-on sentences. The run-on sentence, you did that run-on sentence. That was our innovation here. That was the Speedy Gonzalez Minyan thing. No, every word was Sim Shalom. Because every word is a word from the Ansheneh, Knesset HaGedolah, Nevi'im, prophets. And you know that every one of these words are keys. The guy's wondering why certain things are not working out. Why he does the mitzvah, but he don't feel anything. Because he's not putting the key in. The key is the tefillot. That's a whole other thing of how mitzvot have to be done. B'maaseh, b'machshava, b'dibur, b're'iyah, sometimes with smell, with b'shemi'ah. There's a whole process. Meaning, sometimes you could do the mitzvot b'dibur, but you didn't do it machshava. So the guy, he said the beracha, he did the mitzvah, but there was no machshava there. Or he didn't look. You know, sometimes people put on tefillin. He's looking over there, but he's saying the beracha and the tefillin. So he got maybe the machshava, the dibur, but he didn't have the re'iyah. These are all components. These are all the components to make it perfect. Okay, let's go in. Otzar Pelaot HaTorah. This is a book, a tremendous book on secrets of the Torah. It came out not too long ago from Rav Zickerman. He's a rabbi in Brooklyn, supposedly a businessman and a rabbi. Kind of reminds me of Rabbi Reisman out in California. No, there's the rabbi who helped put the Hebrew books together, and there was what's it called? Tzvi. That was his name, Rav Tzvi. I think that's his name. And he has a whole sefer. But so he's also a businessman, and he wrote a bunch of Sfarim. So let's take a look. Vayikach Korach ben Yitzhar ben Kehat ben Levi v'Datan v'Aviram ben Eliyav v'On ben Pelet ben Reuven. Ha'im parasha zo nikret parashat Korach. So his question is this parasha called Parashat Korach? Good question. V'Sefer Od Moshe katav davar nifla. Says something interesting in this book. Zeno Shano v'da deri'itiv legaon uzenu Rav Chaim Palachi Zal Hanahaga לפי מיעוט ידיעתי לא מצאתי לו חבר לפי שעה שאינו קורא ומשתמש בשם קורח כשהוא צריך להשתמש בשם זה. מחליף דבר ואומר בן לוי לדוגמה עיין בספרו נפש חיים שכתב שם נראה לפרש פשט המדרש רבה פרשת בן לוי. Wow. So the Kafa Chaim Palachi had a whole inyan that on this parasha he wouldn't call it Parashat Korach. He would call it Parashat Ben Levi, the son of Levi. Interesting, because technically this was the story of who? It was the story of Ben Levi from Korach and of Ben Levi from Moshe. וכן כתב בספרו כף חיים, that's the כף חיים פלט, וכן בהגותיו חיים ומזון, לזוהר חדש, עיין שם, ושם בכף החיים, כתב ובדקות ראובן סדר בן קהת, וברור אצלי שטעמו משום דלא מסכין בשם רשע ודוק. So this rabbi, the Kafahim Palachi, said he never called it Parashat Korach. He would call it Parashat Ben Levi because Korach was a Rasha. We don't call it by the name of Rashaim. Wow. So my question is on this: what would he call Balak? How would he get up to? How would he call the situation of Balak? Because Balak. Now we know that the reason why Balak gets a parasha is because of the descendant from the side of Moab and the Ruta Moaviyah. and David HaMelech. So we know that he is connected from that facet. But it's a good question. Why do we call it Parashat Korach if he's a Rasha? Now this is the Kaf Haim Palachi from this source is telling you
He's not a
he didn't call it Parashat Korach because he was a Rasha. You call it Parashat Ben Levi, which is interesting because also Moshe was Ben Levi. So you got it from both sides. Interesting on that point. Interesting. ובעזרת השם יתברך מצאתי חבר למה שכתבתי הגאון פלאצ'י, הלא הוא בן דודו ודידו הגאון רבי נסים אברהם אשכנזי, בספרו דרש אברהם, על התורה שקורא פרשת קורח בשם סדר בן לוי עיין שם. So he found another rabbi, this rabbi Rav Nisim Abraham Ashkenazi, also that he called the parashat Seder ben Levi. By the way, as a side note, most of the parashiot by the old Sfaradi authors were never called parashiot; they were all called Seder. Every week was called a Seder because in every week we have parashiot. We have multiple parashiot. The way the term of parasha is parasha setuma petucha. That if you look in the Torah, sometimes there's a space, sometimes it's filled. So all the rabbis, especially the Kaf Haim Palachi, is very big on it. So where do we get the term parasha from? It was from the Reform movement. They used that terminology. When we came to America, because it was already the common knowledge, it became part of the Orthodox terminology, but it wasn't ours. We call it Seder. What's this week? Seder ben Levi. They wouldn't even call it Korach. Seder ben Levi, which is interesting. Okay. Va'ayen bepirush hatur ha'aruch parashat Pinchas al pasuk mishpachat ha'karchi shevi sham b'shem haramban devnei yitzhar nikre'u ha'korchi ba'avur kevodam shel bnei Korach she'asu teshuvah. So he says, you know why we have it in Korach? Because later on you see the Torah says mishpachat ha'korchi. Why would the Torah mention the family of Korach if he was so wicked? Because his children ended up doing teshuvah. By the way, one of his children is found in Shemuel Bet Perek Vav. His name is Oved Edom Hagiti, and he has the famous story of the Mishkan, when the Mishkan was found in the house of Bet Avinadav. The Aron was found in the house of Bet Avinadav. He was a Levi, and they had moved it. David HaMelech wanted to move it from his house to Ir David in Yerushalayim, and he took 30,000 Bachurim, and they went to go to the Aron, and he had two sons, Avinadav. One of them was called Achia, one was Uzzah. And Achia went in the front, and Uzzah in the back, and they put the Aron on top of a wagon in front of some bulls, some oxen. I think it was 4 oxen in the front. And it started to move, and as it started moving, I guess over the road, you got to imagine what the roads looked like back then. The roads today, if they're not paved, are bumpy. Today, the roads that are paved are bumpy. Could you imagine what it was like rolling wheels with oxen on a wagon, and they had the Aron on it? So the back of the Aron slipped off. He put his hand, he touched it, he ended up dying on the spot. Happens to be Korach used to hold that. He used to hold that for his job, which goes to show you the whole thing. So this was one of the children of Korach, that Oved Edom Hagiti, who later on took the Aron into his house and ended up storing it. So because they made teshuvah, we see from the story that he was a tzaddik. He was a tzaddik. The fact that Oved Edom Hagiti, the one who took the Aron after this incident of this Peretz Uzzah, that they made teshuvah. להודיע שצדיקים היו, ואולם כתב על זה הטור. בזה לשונו, ואיני מבין הטעם שכתב, שקורא למשפחת היצירי על שם קורח, אדרבה, שם רשעים ירכב, ואין ראוי לקרות בשמם, שהרי לפי דעת הרמב"ן היה ראוי לקרותם על שם בני קורח, כי הם עשו תשובה, ולא על שמו של קורח עצמו. ולכאורה שיטתם של רבי חיים פלאצ'י ורבי נסים אברהם אשכנזי, עולה יפה עם דברי הטור החולק על הרמב"ן, שאין הרי לקרות פרשתו בשם קורח, כיוון ששם רשעים ירכב. So it seems that from the two opinions that there's two arguing opinions. One said no, you call them Korach because they made teshuvah. One says no, call it Seder ben Levi, Parashat ben Levi. It's this week. Interesting. Unbelievable. Omnam rov mefarshei HaTorah קראו פרשה כנהוג בשם פרשת קורח. Most of the opinions just wrote פרשת קורח. ומי לנו גדול מרש"י? And who are us? Who's anyone to argue with Rashi HaKadosh? שקורא את פרשת קורח. Once Rashi calls it Parashat Korach, that's it. You put it in the bank. It's better than gold. Ayen Rashi b'Masechet Zevachim v'chen HaRamban. It's Zevachim Mem Daled Amud Bet. Dibur Malchin Kol Korbanam v'chen HaRamban b'Parashat Vezot HaBeracha. קורא את הפרשה הסדר ויקח קורח. אין שם רמב"ן לשיטתו כמו שכתבתי לעיל, שבני קורח עשו תשובה. The children of Korach did תשובה. ועל דרך שאמרו חז"ל במסכת צנענים ברא מזכה אבא. What is ברא מזכה אבא? ברא, children. They give a zechut to the אבא, to the father. ועל ידי תשובתם של בני קורח נתקן חטא של קורח אביהם. So, because they made teshuvah, the father was mitukan. Wow! That's what a blockbuster hadush he's trying to give you here. It's something unbelievable. He's saying you, to the extent that a father that passes away with a tremendously wicked sin, this children's teshuvah can 100% fix the tikkun, and we learned this from the parasha of Korach. It's a tremendous inyan. You always thought teshuvah is for you, and maybe for your children. He's telling you no, it's retroactively even to someone that was before you.
So if the father was bad and the children
make teshuvah
were good and they realized that he was bad, they can make teshuvah for him after?
100%. Which is the inyan here. To the extent that we're going to give you a parasha on the Torah, because the teshuvah was so good and so well accepted and so complete that we'll have a parasha named after it. So it's a different opinion than the Kaf HaChaim Palachi. There's two opinions on it, because that's what we're going to follow Rashi's. We're going to end it on Rashi, even though we follow Kaf HaChaim Palachi. Rashi, mi gadol lanu mi Rashi HaKadosh. So ve'af she'en yadua lanu mi kava et shemot parashiyot. We don't really know who listed for us the name of parashiyot. I mean, generally the way we name them is the way the first pasuk or second pasuk is. Mikol makom pashut hadavar shekivan sheminhag Yisrael mishanim kadmoniyot likrot parashot b'shemot elu. Hare bevada she'yisodam beharei kodesh. It must be that it's holy. Minhag Yisrael Torah. Ubevada she'timonim bahem remazim niskavim. There are a lot of secrets in the names of the parashiyot. Bekivad he'ir al zeh harav Rabbi Sadok HaKaon melublin. Besifro nesisei laila. He wrote a secret there. V'zeh leshono. V'shem shel kol sidra shebat Torah. Interesting. What does he call it? V'shem shel kol sidra seder shebat Torah. He also calls it a seder. Kefi ma shenahagu Yisrael likrota. Everything what we read on a weekly basis. Hu hamekaven shel kol sidra. Al derech shamru v'shemot bnei adam v'kol shemot lashon hakodesh. הוא שורש החיות לאותו דבר, מסתמה גם כן בשמות ספרי הקודש כולם, וכן בשמות פרשיות התורה. Okay, he's giving you a source on it. פרשת קורח אינה מובנת על פי פשוטו. So his next part now on here that he has, he says the parasha of Korach is not well understood. Let's see what he says on it. בפרשי כאן כתב Parasha zo yafe neleshet b'midrash Rabbi Tanchuma. It says, Rashi in the first Rashi, that this parasha is well explained and taught over from what it says in the midrash Rabbi Tanchuma. Achen rov devarav shel Rashi b'parashatenu lochim midrash Tanchuma. And most of what Rashi tells us in this parasha comes from midrash Tanchuma, as opposed to other midrashim. There's a bunch of them. V'hataz Zal, that's the Torah Zahav. Besifro Divrei David in his book, Meva'ed Divrei Rashi Elu. B'zeh l'shono. So the Taz has a little interesting point on it. Parasha zo yafen nidreshet lechaora kashe. This is difficult. Sheyesh isur belashon zeh. You're not allowed to say that this parasha is yafen nidreshet. How did Rashi say such a thing? What do you mean? How did Rashi say that? Because there's a famous Gemara. Share Amru Rabbeinu Zal. Let's see if he lists the Gemara here. Yeah, it's in Iruvin Samech Dalet Amud Aleph. He says, "She'asu lomar halacha zo na'a, halacha zo ena na'a." You're not allowed to say this halacha is nice, this one's not nice. Ve'im ken lama amar Rashi parasha zo yafen dideshet. So why would Rashi say that this parasha is a very beautiful parasha? V'yesh lomar de gam kan yesh mi'ut. There's also a mi'ut, something that's being limited. V'sh'ad mekomot yesh ne derachim. In most places, there's two ways. Echad lefi peshuto. That when I want to explain something, I can explain something in the basic English interpretation of explaining it from Hebrew to English. V'hashani lefi midrash. And the second one, according to the stories of the midrash. So, for example, if it says that Moshe hit the rock, it means he literally hit the rock. That's the regular thing. What's the midrash? Midrash is that when he hit it perfectly, and it was a laser cut or whatever. That would be the midrash. Okay. Aval kan, in this parasha of the Korach, en kan ela derech echad. There's only one way. Teha midrash hu peshuto. That the midrash, all that you're going to read, the stories of Korach, all that is the pshat. That is exactly what happened. She'en kan peshuto. Rak ha-midrash hu yafen nidrash afilu lefi peshuto. Okay, very nice. That's his point here. Hataz epi dugma lekach metechlat ha-parasha shneimar vayikach Korach she'i efshar lefarasho kepshuto ki lo yitachen lekachat anashim beyadayim. What do you mean that in the beginning of Parashat it says that vayikach Korach, that he took? What do you mean? He took them physically? Ela al korchach hakavana shelakach otam bedevarim. That it means that he took them using words, that he convinced them speaking to them. It says vayikach Korach ben Yisar ben Levi. That's one of the interpretations that he took. He didn't physically take anyone. He took them by speaking to them. Let's take a look. We'll do one more small piece. Actually, we'll end it here. Baruch Adonai le'olam. Amen ve'amen.